Now, after having said that whoever is performing whatever or engaged in whatever activity, they are all pursuing me, because there is nothing away from me, right? So having said that, now he moves to a topic which is something which will hopefully will answer Neeru's morning question, and also hopefully it will throw light on what does it mean when we say the wise person is free. Okay? What does it mean? So all that in next few verses, Lord Krishna, if you understand the real meaning, it will be very, very clear, hopefully. Okay? So the next verse is 16th verse. It says, Kim karma kima karmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yadnatva mokshase shubhat. Repeat after me. Kim karma kima karmeti
karmeti
Kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yajnatva mokshase shubhat. Okay. So in the literal translation go like this. Even the seers, the scholars, are confused with reference to what is action and what is actionlessness. I shall tell you about action, doing which you will be released from what is inauspicious, which is samsara. So that means the ultimate knowledge also then depends upon understanding what is action and what is actionlessness. What is our general understanding? A normal understanding. When I am talking, I am performing an action. Okay? And when I am sitting, not doing anything, then what am I doing?
Still action.
Still.
She is Pandita. What is your normal understanding? That we are not doing anything. Exactly. Right? So the normal understanding, not Neeru's understanding, the normal understanding, Neeru's understanding is like a wise person. Right? But the normal understanding is when I'm doing something, like when I'm talking, when I'm walking, when I'm, whatever, I'm at work, typing something, or I'm looking at my mobile. This is what we call action. And just sitting simply or sleeping is considered what? Not action. Okay, this is a normal understanding. The wise people understand things very differently. Okay, because for them, this is what he says, even Panditaha, even the big scholars are a little bit confused with reference to what is action and what is actionlessness. Okay? Why do you need to know between action and actionlessness? Because ultimately, what is the vision? Atma is free from all actions. So that means you need to know where there is something where there is no action and where the action is taking place. Because if you know the difference between these two, you are a wise person. Okay? Because otherwise you will think that the minute the wise person knows Atma is free from all actions, what? He will stop, he or she will what? Stop acting in this world. So that means there is a huge confusion. Right? Because that particular logic is a completely faulty logic. And this is why he says that Panditaha, even the scholars, make a mistake about what is action and what is inaction. Okay? Now, he says, now I'm going to unfold what is action and what is inaction. And he uses next few verses to say that there are different things here. Okay, so here he says, Karmano hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. Here he says, action is to be known, forbidden action and actionlessness must also be known, because the nature of karma is difficult to understand or fathom. Okay? So now let me ask you one more question. If a machine is running, is it karma? No. So that means what we generally, anything in motion, does it mean action, the karma? Things in motion does not mean karma. Why?
Because it's the action without conscience.
Yeah, excellent. Right? So here when we use the word karma, right, it is a very specific meaning of the word. As Sara is saying, action, karma means what in Shastra it defines as karma means Purusha Tantra. Purusha Tantra means it is something which is centered on the free will of the person. And this is what Sara says is that it is something which is done from, what she is using the terminology is the conscience. Okay? So therefore, action means when I use my free will. Otherwise, it is just a mechanical, when the river is flowing, it's not performing action. That is just a flow. But if I'm choosing to throw garbage in the river, that is an action. Okay? Because I need not do it. So that means free will means I have a choice with reference to whether I do it or I don't do it, or there are n million number ways in which I can do one given thing. I want to earn money. I can find so many different ways to earn money. Okay. I want to go and watch a movie. I have so many different choices as to which movie I watch. Okay. So that means at every given point in time, I'm using my free will to make the choices. Okay. So that means anything, karma is what we call Purusha Tantra. Purusha Tantra means that it is something which is centered on person's free will. And along with free will is coming, imagine you were given a free hand to choose and you were not given any knowledge with reference to how to choose. There will be what? A faulty creation. Imagine I just have to choose, but I have no idea some basic criteria for choice of my action. So along with this free will comes what Sara says as conscience. Conscience is an English word. What we say is common sense value. Common sense value means it is in everybody's mind. It's available to everyone, regardless of gender, nationality, country, everybody. Every human being knows what is what how I should be treated and how others expect me to treat them. That is something known to everyone.
Karma.
So that is karma. Exactly. So that means this whole thing of free will and the free will guided by dharma, and if it is not following dharma, there are consequences which I cannot avoid. That whole thing comes under what? Karma. That in fact, karma, according to, he is making two distinctions of that karma. Here he says karma and vikarma. Okay? So that means karma, he makes it as that which is done in keeping with the common sense value. What is vikarma? which disregards the common sense value. Okay. Now here I would like to discuss a little bit that if everybody's common sense tells them what is the right action and what is not the right action, okay, in spite of knowing, we end up going against dharma. And why? Why does that happen? So for example, I know if I'm a government officer and I have to give a sanction for, let's say, building a bridge. And I know that I should take a bid from whoever the construction companies, and I should give it to who? Whoever is the best bid, right? Now one of the person who gave a tender, he comes to you and he says, okay, now I'll give you what? 1 crore rupees if you select my company. Does the person who is a government officer, who is quite at a high position, does he not know that this is a wrong action?
When you focus on personal good over the larger good, right? You make the bad choice.
Exactly.
When you're focused on your personal gain over the larger gain.
Excellent. Right? So that means, why is this person, she's asking she's answering incorrect, right? So that means it's not that the person doesn't know this is a wrong action, right? The person knows. But in spite of knowing it, the person still does it, because what Preeti is saying is, the person is looking at the situation only from one standpoint. And that standpoint is one's personal gain. Okay? What she's saying is absolutely right. So that means let's get into the mind of this person. What is this person thinking? We'll just elaborate a little. Okay? Now the person is saying, okay, now this 1 crore that I have, nowadays it is multiple crores. I mean, not now, because after the government shift, hopefully things are much better. Okay? But let's say that officer is very clear what the person can do with that 1 crore. He can buy a beautiful house, right? Much better than probably what he has. He can buy a good car, he can send his kids to school. So everything he knows, right? He's assessing from the criteria is his personal good, and from that criteria, what seems like it seems like a very good choice, because all this are the gates. Okay? And let's say by the principle of following dharma, the person does not take the bribe, then he wonders, what is my gain? It seems to him as though there is no gain in being honest. Maybe he says, okay, it will hurt my conscience, but then what is his conscience? I'll just go have a beer and then I'll forget about conscience, right? I'll go and have good time and I'll forget about how long will I, right? So this is what, in his equation, this is how he views the situation. As long as he views the situation in this way, what? In spite of knowing that this is a wrong act, it's not because he doesn't know, in spite of knowing, what he will do?
Justify it himself.
Exactly, justify to himself and follow what we call adharma. So vikarma happens because I have a thinking process, okay, where in my vision I have a big gain if I take a bribe, and I have no gain if I don't take the bribe and follow dharma. Okay? Now if I want the person to change the behavior, and if I keep telling him this is not good, this is not ethical, this is not, as long as that he knows already. So this this kind of pounding down these values with all these things is not going to make any difference in his behavior. So if I want him to change, what do I need to do?
I have to explain the value of this value.
Exactly. So if I want him to change his behavior, his or her behavior, then I have to show him, as Carl says, the value of following the value. I have to make this whole equation totally different. Okay? So that gain and loss, he has to see it totally differently. So how will he see it differently? I have to explain to him. Okay? So what are some intangibles that the person is not considering which are working? Okay? So that means now first I have to tell him that you know what? That every action, when you go against the law, okay, there is an immediate feedback that is given to you. What is that immediate feedback? Guilt. Right? So that means this is the universe. Who is giving this feedback? All knowledge. Instantaneous. There is a feeling of guilt. There is a feeling of guilt that I have gone against what I know to be right. Okay. Now, one can say, and then along with guilt also comes the fear. Because there is always a possibility that I can be found out and I can be put in jail. That is also there. Okay. Guilt, now what is happening to your mind? You are adding what? Distortions. The first distortion is in form of guilt. The second distortion is in form of fear. Okay. Now human beings are so clever. They said, okay, now these two I know will happen, but I can somehow manage. Right? Guilt, as I said, I can manage by just going to a bar and just having a good time, dancing, drinking, forgetting about it. Okay? And fear I can manage by somehow designing or orchestrating the action in such a way that I will decrease my chance of being caught to the maximum. So I orchestrate. I manipulate all the different people, okay, so that the chances of my being found out are what? Reduced. But even then, actually the fear is not going to go, because these people that I have manipulated, there will always be fear what? They will speak up at some time. So that means, in spite of taking care of them, there is always, you have this mafia. There are so many things, and then they all manipulate, and one of them what? Starts turning against them, and what happens? They are constantly watching who's the fallout. The minute the person falls out, what happens? They shoot him. Eliminate. But that means, who are on your side, there is always a suspicion. People who you think are on your side, there is always a suspicion. The interactions are never clean. So many distortions. Okay? Now, this feeling of guilt, once you go against the law, the other time, the next time, also what happens? You go against the law. So that means you do it repeatedly. When you do it repeatedly, what happens is you fall in your own self-esteem. Because you know something is right and you know that you can't do it. You begin to have low self-image. Okay? Guilt, fear, low self-image. Okay? How many distortions have you added? Then what happens is, when the guilt is compounded, or when you say that, that's another point, okay? When you understand that you know what is right and what is wrong, and in spite of knowing you do something wrong, then in your vision, how long it will take for others to be the same? Whether they are the same or not, in your vision, what? If you can do it, everybody can do it. Okay. So therefore, what happens is, every interaction of yours Not only with people who you have manipulated to be on your side, but the others is also going to be fraught with what? Suspicion. When somebody says something, is that person saying the truth or not? Is this person trying to manipulate me, or is this person just being direct? That means the very vision of when you interact with somebody else, there is a doubt, there is a suspicion, because that doubt is not based on how the other person is based on what? How you are. Projection. And it seems to you as though that person is the source of doubt. Exactly.
But you can always be aware that that kind of persons that try to fool you exists, and you cannot be like that, but be aware that there are persons like that.
No. And what I'm saying is, what are the unseen, right? What are the intangible losses of going against the universal values? Okay? You are giving a different scenario. You are giving a scenario where you are not suspicious, somebody else is actually harming you, and you just have to know it. That is a different thing, right? What we are saying is, whether that person is harming or not, in my perception, I am suspicious. Why? Because I am fooling others. So what? I feel that others will also fool me.
That kind of feeling inside of me.
Yeah,
so
exactly. I feel it exactly. Right? What you are saying is right, that sometimes it is there and I see it, and then I have to take precaution to protect myself. That is correct. But right now that's not the topic, right? Now the topic is what is happening which I don't realize when I go against universal value. Yeah? So therefore, there is suspicion, there is mistrust, then I have this whole thing, then I generalize it even further. What is the generalization? The generalization is the world is now not trustworthy. So then now from each individual I am giving a huge jump, quantum jump. The world these days, fairness does not pay. Dishonest people go ahead in life.
So I make a shift even on my universal value.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely. So that means I make a huge distortion of how the universe operates. Absolutely.
And, create my own theory.
Own theory about
based
it.
on my own
Own
distortion.
thing. Brilliant view. Lovely. That is true. My God, that is very nice way of putting it.
You know, so that's when people get together and talk. They always say these days,
These days.
Exactly. So the whole, I'm just thinking that the whole universal value, people have distorted so much that they've created another universal value and a fear of another universal value, which is not really
real.
So there's a shift.
Yeah, and that means it is mithya. I mean, it's so much distortion, right? Very, very good point. Are you getting what she is saying? She's making a very nice point.
Times over.
Yeah.
So there's a shift in the universal values
Your understanding.
which people are understanding. These, you applied it to the
We are
whole.
looking at the rope and thinking dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, so from the snake it's become
Dragon.
something
Dragon.
else.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely. Right? So that means you are adding distortion after distortion after distortion. And imagine a mind which has this low self-image, that means a sense of failure, sense of not being good, distrust towards the world in general, total distortion of how one perceives universal values. Okay? Then guilt, fear. How much this person has gained, let's say Mercedes-Benz, and he has gained maybe a better house to live in. With this type of a mind, how much that person is able to enjoy. A mind in conflict, which is a huge conflict, it's not a small conflict. Can't enjoy anything. And this is what Savita was saying, that she has met so many people who are so wealthy. They have no shortage of money. And the level of suffering they have is, she says, it's incredible.
Because all these distortions
Exactly.
lead and
Multiply.
compounded,
They-
multiplied, go viral literally.
Exactly. Right?
Which
And-
means that the collective vikarma
yeah.
has created a new set of universal ethical values which people kind of see, and which is a shift from the
Real universal. And this is why
which
from
they are
time to
believing
time.
in and they have theorized in.
Exactly.
And they are believing that distorted.
And from time to time there is a correction, which is done by what? The real laws. Right?
Yeah.
Because
Because
they
time to time somebody will get caught,
Exactly.
put in jail.
Exactly.
So that one person is actually representing the entire people who would have created that. right?
Absolutely. Or sometimes, let's say, this economic and financial crisis that happened, which was a global crisis, right? Because people were behaving with a totally wrong foundation.
Or one suicide which is representative of so many suffering minds.
Exactly. Right? Either it can be seen at one level or it can be seen at a collective level.
So when the incidents increase,
Exactly. Very well put. Very, very well put. Okay. So this is what we call vikarma. Distortions in, and there is no end to it. Okay, then slowly what happens, your mind is in conflict, you can't sleep, you're nervous all the time, you don't have one thing to which you can attribute your anxiety, your restlessness, right? But it's all a compounded confusion which is culminated into that. Then what happens? It starts reflecting on your body. Many, I think, diseases are actually what they call psychosomatic. Okay? All the distortions here start appearing what? At physical levels. Okay? So that means now you look at the equation again. If that government officer was re-looking at the equation, gain and loss, initially what? He only saw the gain of what? That 1 crore, and the loss of sacrificing the value seemed almost zero to him, or very little, not totally zero, maybe very little. Now, what is the loss? Guilt, fear, low self-esteem, distrust towards life, being suspicious, creating a completely distorted understanding of the value structure itself, as Neeru is saying, how the world works. And further getting into it, because if my understanding of value system shifts from thinking that if I do something wrong, I have to pay for it, to this, that only dishonesty pays, imagine what are going to be my for future actions. How deep I will go in my distortion, and how much suffering there will be there, how much affliction there will be there, both mentally and physically. Okay? Is this a good bargain? Only when I see the value of values accurately, that what do I gain by following the value, and what do I lose by not following the value. If I assess it accurately, only then what? I on my own will not what? Take the bribe. Not out of fear of what? Being caught, or not, oh, I'm the one who is now a very responsible human being, and no conceit. It's just a very practical way of living for my own good. It's not an obligation to the society, it's not an obligation to my parents, it's not an obligation to my government that I'm being honest, hey, I'm taking care of myself and I'm taking care of my own well-being, because there is a huge cost to my not following universal values. So I'm doing it actually, I would say differently. I'm still acting for my personal well-being, but how I define my personal well-being is a much more responsible way of looking than just my distorted perception of my personal well-being. You're still doing it for yourself. You're still doing it for your personal gain, but what you considered personal gain before was a highly partial view of personal gain. Now you see your personal gain in a true light. That's why it is an assimilated value. Because as long as you think I'm doing for others and you're sacrificing your self-interest, this is what Savita kept saying, right? That as long as you see yourself as sacrificing your personal interest for somebody else, then you always think that you have what? Undergone a personal loss. What are we saying here? We are saying something different. You have not undergone a personal loss. You've really helped yourself and saved yourself from all these troubles.
Some people
that are inevitable.
Some people are so happy in that martyr role. Like, they get the kick out of it and they इनके लिए किया, and they go on into it and they just can't come out of that cycle. शहीद ही होते रहते.
Yeah, exactly. So here he says vikarma is that the distortion, and akarma. Okay, what is akarma? Actionlessness. What is actionlessness? Actionlessness does not mean that you don't do anything and then you just sit around. That is not actionlessness, because as Neeru says, that is, sitting is also an action. That's why sit is a verb. It indicates action. Sleep is a verb. It indicates action of sleeping. So here, actionlessness does not mean not doing anything. Then what does actionlessness mean?
That I don't do anything.
Excellent. That in spite of activities taking place at the physical levels and at subtle level, according to the causal laws, I, the awareness, never engages in any action. That is actionlessness. Doesn't mean at the physical level the action stops. Please understand that. If you do that, what happens?
You still think that you are the physical.
Look at him.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Answer,
So,
this is correct.
if you stop acting, thinking that if you stop
Yeah.
acting physically, then you identify yourself with the physical body. Why you should be identifying yourself with the awareness, which never acts.
नहीं समझा मुझे.
He is absolutely right. in
No,
his
but
logic.
that means that is what you should not do. You can't identify with awareness, actionlessness and not do anything.
No. What he's saying is absolutely right. What he's saying is, when the physical body is not doing something, when the physical body is not doing anything, and if you think that because Atma is actionless, therefore physical body should not do anything, what does it mean?
What is wrong?
You got it wrong.
That's
Exactly.
what I
So that means, now let's inverse, right? And we say, let's say the physical body is doing something. Is Atma is doing anything? No. Exactly. So that means Atma is actionless regardless of what? Whether the physical body is doing something or not doing something.
So, karma we are talking at the Atma level?
Yes.
Can you give a practical example?
The practical example will come. So for example, right, as long as you, the next verse, if you don't understand, you ask me. Okay? Next verse will again, actionlessness, here we will see this much, then we will look at the next verse, which hopefully will answer your question. Right? So the karma is, this verse uses three things: karma, vikarma and akarma. Okay? What is karma? Karma is using your free will, you perform an action, and if it is in keeping with dharma, then you can call it karma. Okay? At other place, in Gita and in other Shastra, the karma is used for both karma and vikarma. Using, so you should not get confused. Don't say that, okay, now here Lord Krishna is using two divisions and there it is only one.
Because the karma can be punya and papa.
Exactly.
Whereas here the genius karma is punya and vikarma is papa. Right?
Excellent. Excellent.
Which karma is punya?
And karma is at awareness level.
Exactly. Perfect.
But I have a question here. Karma can also be at physical level, can it not? Because suppose you take that example of this guy who took the bribe to do this. Now, we can also take an example of somebody who needs to upgrade his family, educate his children, but he says that this is my destiny and he doesn't do anything.
That is not akarma. That is not akarma, because if he is not doing that, he is doing something else. Let's say he is sitting down. Even sitting down is karma.
So he is not understood that karma and
Exactly.
properly.
Exactly.
But
That's why
that
he is
is
not a
not
pandita.
karma.
Exactly. She got it 100%. Okay. Now, let's forget what Meeru is, because she has understood it well. Here, let's look at this verse. Okay. What Lord Krishna is saying in this particular verse, the way the word karma is used is that when I use my free will and go along with universal values, okay, that is what we call karma. Yes? And vikarma is mentioned as when I use my free will and what? Go against,
Disregard the common
disregard
sense.
the common sense values. That is called vikarma. Okay? So that means he is making a distinction, karma and vikarma. Generally, in other places, when we use only the word karma, we include both. That either I have a free will, I have common sense, either I follow it or I don't follow it.
So here karma will be pap and vikarma, punya and vikarma will be pap.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was thinking.
Sorry?
Again?
Yeah. So when I follow, what she's saying is right. Well, if you follow what I'm saying, she's just restating what I'm saying in the same manner. So you don't need to understand what she's saying. Did you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly.
But she put it very
Differently.
Yeah.
Yes. So you don't need to worry about that, because I understand what they are talking. You don't probably, and you don't need to. If you understand what I'm saying, then that is good.
Okay.
Yes. Is you are okay?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So if I follow,
No, I was just asking for the terms.
okay, terms, okay, now terms is something very simple, okay? What she's talking about is that if my action is in keeping with dharma, then what? There is a reward for it. What is the reward for it? It is called punya. Punya means unseen result of a good action, which will fructify sometime later. Okay? And vikarma means if I'm going against universal values, then I have seen results which are what? All the guilt and fear and all that we saw. But in addition to that, sometime in the future I will have some form of difficulty, okay, which is what we call unseen result of an inappropriate action. Yes, Papa? It's okay?
I just want to ask
No
a question.
karma.
And akarma, yeah, sorry.
Free will is on the level of subtle.
Yeah, obviously, only when a human being is alive, the human being has a choice, right? You have to have a mind to have free will. And the mind and its functions, one is the physical brain, the other one is the function of the mind, which is subtle, obviously.
And in Sanskrit, you call it sankalpa.
Sankalpa. Yeah, sankalpa, when I say that when you pray, you do a sankalpa, means what? You decide. You use your free will. What do you want this prayer to be? For what? Okay. Now, what is akarma? Generally, a normal person's understanding of akarma is what? When you're sitting, then you're not doing anything. What are we saying? When you're sitting,
Still you are doing.
still you're doing something because sitting is an act.
Because you have a choice of sitting or sleeping.
Exactly. And you have a choice of sitting or going out and doing something. So you're exercising your free will to sit as opposed to go out and act. So that means what? It is action. And that action, if you're supposed to go out and act, and if you decide to sit, what karma it is? Vikarma. Right? If you're supposed to go out and do something, and you decide to sit, is it karma or vikarma? Vikarma.
Not always.
No, that's what, if you're supposed to. If you're just sitting, there is no problem.
Yeah, if
But
you're
you
supposed
are
to go out and learn, for
and learn,
example,
exactly.
to take care of your
Oh,
family.
That's what I'm saying.
And,
That's
instead
what
of that, you're
supposed to.
sitting at
You're sitting,
home thinking
exactly.
about.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Okay? If something is called for, and if you don't do that, and you're just sitting, that means you're using your free will to make that choice, and for that there is what? A result. Okay? So therefore, actionlessness is not just sitting and not doing anything. Actionlessness is, as Uddhav says, understanding that whether the physical body is sitting or the physical body is very busy, engaged in 100 activities, Atma, the awareness, never performs any action.
So akarma is atma.
Akarma is only with reference to Atma, because Atma never performs any karma, and that is what the wise person knows it. Others don't know this reality.
Could it also imply not doing what's your dharma?
No, that will become vikarma. That becomes vikarma. Vikarma means that something you have to do and you don't do, or you do it wrongly. That is vikarma.
Which in other words mean, well, if you have to do something and you don't do, it will be anyways added to your causal.
There is a slight nuance here. There is a slight nuance. What you're saying is absolutely right, but what it says is, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be done, right, you're doing something else. And that something else is not what is to be done by you at that given point in time. So therefore, you will get karma, a result. Not just non-action, but doing something else. You see what I mean?
I think, if you have done a lot of work and you're resting,
It's wonderful.
it's it's there's nothing wrong.
Wrong. Exactly.
But if you are resting, whereas you should have gone and earned to feed your family, then so the same sitting and sleeping will have the different. Even I'm understanding.
Absolutely.
After having said.
Now, see, for example, there is this lady who is say she is completing her 9 months of pregnancy and she will be delivering anytime. She wants her partner to be with her during that period. He doesn't feel so. And he stays away. He is working, he is doing his job, but he is not there when the wife wants. Then how to?
Yeah. I mean, there is what we call swadharma, right? And with a child, when you are going to be a father, and unless there is some emergency where you have to be, that you can't get away, that's an exception. Okay? In a normal case, you can't be indifferent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be indifferent to such a big event and not be there for your wife. So that means you are not doing what is to be done and you are doing something else. So that means that will come.
But on the other hand, if he is abroad or somewhere else, not in town, and she needs him that time, it's okay.
So that's what there
It's
is so
totally
many
situational.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because you have to accept that as your dharma. Someone else may assume it's your duty. If you don't accept it as your duty, there are gray areas sometimes.
So the difference
Exactly.
would
And
be
the
bond.
situations are very
Yeah,
different at times, right? So it's sometimes you are helplessly, but if you just are totally indifferent, right? You need not, you may not be present, but sometimes because of emergency, but you care and you
Show that you
show
want
that
to
you
be
want exactly.
So
So that is means
the feeling or the intention behind
Behind
that.
exactly. The intention also counts a lot. So that means the result of action takes into account all these nuances before it gives you what?
Seen or unseen result.
Seen or unseen result, right? So that means not acting is not actionlessness. This is the most important thing that you must understand. Otherwise it would be something very simplistic. When this is what he says. Generally you think when you are acting, and when you are sitting or sleeping, you are not acting. He's saying all these are actions.
This is where the distortion with the word surrender happens, right?
What do you mean? Can you
Surrender.
explain?
I mean, even I've been through it. So some people or whatever, some religions or this thing will tell you, there's nothing you need to do, just surrender and he will take care of everything. So you're really not doing anything, you're sitting, praying, you're doing something, whereas some effort and some action on your part is required.
Necessary. Absolutely.
So that connotation, even surrender can have two parts to it. Maybe it's again like sitting. You've probably done everything and then you're saying, now it's in your hands. Or you haven't done anything and you're saying, I anyway can't do anything, I surrender to you, yeah, you take care.
Is it surrendering on emotional level, but on behavioral and effort level, you keep on doing whatever you can, whatever is under
No,
your
I think it's the law of probability that ought to be effort.
Okay. This, I think we will see it in the satsanga, because otherwise these kind of topics are endless. What you need to understand, the three things are very critical that you understand clearly, because that will form how much you understand Gita and how much you understand Vedanta. Okay? Karma here is used as that when you use your free will to what? Follow karma. That is here in this verse is defined as karma. Vikarma is what? When you use your free will and either go against dharma or you are just passive and not do anything when you actually have to do something. And this is exactly what was Arjuna's dilemma, right? If Arjuna had to engage in the war because he was in a position to challenge Duryodhana, which nobody else was in position to do, and if he just decided not to fight, that was inaction. I mean inaction, no, not inaction. It was vikarma. It was vikarma because he was not doing what had to be done. Right? So in your vikarma, either you can be aggressive, you can be actually acting, or you can be passive. Both are vikarma. I think that probably answers your question. Then actionlessness is something which is totally different, right? It is where you recognize, right, that Atma is always free from action. That is the actionlessness. Okay? So now to highlight, and this is why he says Gahana Karmanogati. It's not really easy to figure out what is all this. Okay? This is why he says, then the 18th verse, he's talking about is actually summarizing all that we have seen in one verse, which is put in a very clever way. Okay? Here he says, Karmanya karmaya pashyet akarmani cha karmayaha sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta krishna karma krita. So you have to chant after me. Karmanya karmaya pashyet akarmani cha karmayaha sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayukta krishna karma krita. And he says that the one who sees actionlessness in action and action in actionlessness is wise among human beings. That person is a yogi who has done everything that is to be done. Okay? So, use everything that you have learned here, and if you figure it out, then you understood what we have studied. Okay? Karmani akarma yapashye. Okay? So that means my general understanding is when I'm very active and my physical actions are going on, then what?
Then only I am acting.
Then I am acting. Okay? What is the wise person's understanding? While the physical body is very busy doing something, if you ask the wise person, is I acting? Exactly. Right? So the physical body, the wise person is not denying the fact that the physical body is acting. Please understand that. And the wise person continues to engage in the world, following the laws of the world. But the vision of Atma, what the wise person understands is I, where is the real I, the awareness is always free from action. It has got nothing to do with what? Physical body acting or not acting. Okay? Therefore, anybody who thinks that the wise person will stop acting in the world is, as Uddhav says, is making still a confusion. Because their I is still placed in physical body. Okay? Regardless of whether physical body is acting or resting or whatever, Atma, the awareness, is always actionless. So karmani akarma yapashyet. That means a wise person can be the busiest person on this earth, and still he sees or she sees Atma as Akarta. Okay? This is exactly how Lord Krishna is represented. From the time of his birth to the time that he went, how many things he did? Constantly busy, constantly engaged in activities. Right? He did not just sit back and say, oh, Atma is Akarta and Atma is free and Atma, and then just sat there. He was extremely proactive. Extremely proactive. Okay? He had very difficult, how was he born? He was born in a jail. His parents were imprisoned. And then what? He was brought up with totally two different people, Nanda and Yashoda. Not his real parents or anything. Then at the age of 11, 12, his uncle wanted to kill him. Did he say that, oh, all that is one and he is one and I am one and we are all actionlessness and no. What did he do? Even though his uncle and that he was somebody who was not a good force, he fought and he killed him. Right? Then at every given point in time, Arjuna kept coming to him and asking him for advice. Draupadi, when she was in trouble, nobody helped her, Krishna helped her. Okay. Okay. Krishna was constantly acting, very active in life. But what made him wise? Why, in spite of all these actions which were difficult actions, difficult things to figure out, what was he like? He was stressed out, confused, anxious, depressed. What? Always joy. And what? With his flute. And not all straight and all, but dancing. A very sweet pose. What? What made that difference to him? What made? Only the real knowledge of Atma. Atma of Ishvara is also what? Awareness. And Ishvara is not ignorant about it. In fact, the knowledge for you comes from Ishvara. That means in Ishvara's buddhi there is no confusion about the true nature of Atma. Because if there was confusion, how will this knowledge come to you? Understand all the implications. Ishvara is never confused. When Ishvara uses the word I, he understands there is one aspect which is all knowledge, which is mithya. The truth of this Ishvara is awareness. There is no confusion. This is why through Veda, Ishvara teaches you, you and I are the same. Ishvara is not confused. Okay. So this is where karmani akarma yaf pashyet. He is a wise person. It's not only Krishna, if you can see that, if you can see the real nature of Atma as actionless, regardless of how active you are also the wise person. Okay? And then akarmani cha karmayaha. So generally what we consider as inaction, which is sitting, sleeping or whatever, that what is still action. If, as Nero says, you see yourself as a doer, then that is an action of what? Sitting and sleeping. Okay. So therefore, akarmani cha karmayaha means that just physically doing something or not doing something is not what we call action and inaction. What really makes an action is if you take Atma to be a doer, then every action is an action. And if you take Atma to be a non-doer, then what? You can be doing anything, but Atma you know is non-doer.
Can I make a small point over here, which
Yes.
is that if we don't understand this about the real nature of action, and we continue to identify ourselves with the physical, and we think that we are acting, then that action will cling to us, as it says.
Yeah, that will give punya papa.
Right. And but if we are not identifying with the physical,
It's not know the true nature.
knowing the true nature,
Yeah,
and we continue to act,
yes.
then that will not.
That will not. No. This is where we explain this whole thing that Sanchita karma drops, then Agami karma drops, and only the Prarabdha karma continues till the time that this body goes away. The minute the knowledge takes place, then you are not subject to this punya papa. You are free from this, what we call karma and karma phala, which is what we call samsara.
And after attaining this knowledge, you continue to act.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. You can continue to act, but you don't mistake the Atma as the doer, right? Awareness performs no action.
And you don't think you are the subtle as a physical body who is the doer.
Exactly.
Mean there is no.
That means the subtle body is not independent of you. Subtle body is you, but you are not the subtle body. The physical body is you, but you are not the physical body.
In one way, it is like in the morning time when you are saying hearing takes place. No? If I really understand it, now I'm not the doer, I'm not the hearer, it's taking place.
But that is slightly different because when you have physical and subtle body, even the wise person has free will, right? It's not like the wise person stops using the free will. The person can very much use the free will to say that now I'm going to do a retreat in Rishikesh. This is using of free will.
This was not the point.
Yeah. No, because here hearing takes place has a kind of a connotation that you are not doing anything. You see what I mean?
Because
And
there is
it
an
just-
understanding. If there is an understanding that I'm not the doer, that the gunas are doing all the things.
I don't know, Suri has to
When I am
answer.
saying in meditation hearing takes place, it means that you are not using your free will and deciding that let this sound comes to me. It will anyway comes to you. Imagine you are in a market, in the fish market. You are coming out of your car and you arrive in a fish market. The moment you arrive in a fish market, smelling will take place, okay? That using your will you can block this. But if you don't block your nose, if there is the smell of the fish and you are around, the smell will take place. And if same for seeing. Okay? It just means that the use of free will is not required in these conditions for perceiving things. That's all what I'm saying.
Okay, then I misunderstood it in
Yes.
a way that there is an understanding that's not me who is acting as hearing, that always the gunas are
No,
doing,
no, no.
always the gunas are doing, and I'm just,
Yeah.
let's say, the watcher or I'm Atma.
Okay.
This I understood in this way, but it's okay, now I get it.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in that physical and in the subtle, you are given the free will and you use your free will, but still that will not make Atma as what? The doer.
Yes, of course.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what it is meant.
We'll discuss about this in the satsang.
So here he says that if you understand karmani akarma yaf pashyat. Is this clear? Is this verse clear for everyone? Sorry? Okay. So Saha Buddhiman Manusheshu. This is the person among human being. He is what? He is Buddhiman. Okay. And then that person is what we call Yuktaha, means connected to the reality. Yunj Dhatu, yogi, no? The yogi is Yunj Dhatu, connected to reality accurately. That means he's seeing things clearly. Okay? And then he says, for him, Krishna Karma Krit. Everything that is to be done is done for him or her. Why? If the whole purpose of life, as Rachna was saying, or I think it was Preeti who was saying, can be redefined as what? Removing your veil and seeing things as they are. This person, what? Has done removing of the veil
The main
and
purpose of life.
the main purpose of life, right? And also seeing things as they are. And in that seeing things as they are, what does he or she discover?
All knowledge.
All knowledge, and
Knowledge
then
of the awareness.
and also the knowledge of awareness, which is the truth of all knowledge and also information. Okay? And that awareness is what? Totally free, never performs any action, never engages in anything, has no attributes. Right? That is known by the person. Once that is known, then what? The game is over. Then the person with one's physical body and mind, whatever years are remaining, is free to act in the way. Obviously the person will not go against dharma, cannot go against dharma, right? Because the dharma is the first foundation for what? That knowledge to even take place. Right? The person will make use of one's physical and subtle body while the body is alive for what? Benefit of humanity. Mostly. Even if the person decides that, okay, now I don't want to be an actor, there are many people who just want to live a quiet life. They don't want to, because teaching is a huge thing. You are actually influencing minds of human beings. That's tough. And it's a very responsible job, right? You take that responsibility to say that, my God, I'm going to become a teacher and I'm going to transmit something that I have understood. And this is a complex knowledge which has so many different aspects. Okay? And that requires skills, it requires patience, it requires you to be with them in this whole process of learning. So that's a big job. And a wise person can say, no, my inclination is not towards this, I'm just sitting quietly. That also is fine. Okay? That is what even the prarabdha will take care. Because people come with different prarabdha. No rules remain for the wise person. Because the person has done one's job. It's over. The game is over for that person. Okay? But many times those wise people will engage in the world. Because what do they have to lose? Nothing to lose. If my actions or my choices can benefit people, why not? But there is no pressure on part of the wise person to say, oh, I'm this missionary and I have to what?
Save the world.
Save the world, exactly. The world is already saved because there is already Ishvara. There is already Ishvara taking care of everything. Okay? I will end this class, but what she's saying is so true, right? The save the world responsibilities you need not carry with you. Why? Because Ishvara is all pervading. And he's already doing it. Okay. Small story, a light note to end this class. There was this person in the train, okay, with a huge, he's a vegetable vendor. Okay. So now he has many different vegetables and he's going from one village to the other to sell those vegetables, right, so that he can earn the living. Okay. So in the train, he's carrying this huge basket with what? Carrots and cabbage and cauliflower and beetroot and potatoes and onions, and it's a huge basket, and he's carrying it. And obviously he's carrying such a huge basket and he's looking tired and he's looking, Then the next passenger, he says, but why are you carrying this basket? He says, you know what, life is so tough for me. I did not study. So my parents did not send me to school. Right? So now I don't have any education to go and work in an office or anything. And I'm living in a small town. What can I do? I just there are farmers who cultivate and they also ask for a high price. Right? Then I have to just go and sell, and whatever little margin I have, I earn. So that means I'm really obliged to do this. Right? I'm tired and it's a very difficult job, but I have to do it because I have to support my family. The passenger is saying, all this is right, I totally agree, but right now, if you take out this thing and put it on the train, what? The train will carry it. You don't need to carry it. Right?
Yes, document at that moment.
At that moment, right, you don't need to carry this whole burden of your story or anything. At any given point in time, I need not carry the burden of saving the world, and nobody needs to carry the burden of saving the world. We don't need, in fact, our teacher was saying, we don't want to be saved by saviors. We don't need that.
Just focus on saving yourself.
Exactly.
The rest will take care of itself.
Itself, absolutely. Just save yourself, free yourself, and the rest will take care of itself. And just make yourself available, lovely. And then see, watch Ishvara, how it all unfolds. But be proactive, make your choices. Then don't carry the burden. It will happen. Okay? So this is the freedom of a wise person. He can be engaged in the world, but no burdens. Because what is clearly understood. Okay? So this is what he says, Sa buddhiman manusheshu. Everything which needs to be done is done by that person. Okay? Now, the next verses we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.